In today's video, it's going to be a cool one because I'm going to bring you through how some brands just scale to $3,000 to $10,000 per day in sales, while others scale past $40,000 per day in sales by selling the same exact or very similar product and offering. Before we get going further into the video, if you are a new viewer, as I said before, we work with 8-figure and 7-figure brands. This is just one of our own clients, just a random day throughout the year. April 16, $41,000 in sales. I'm just showing you this so you have the type of, you understand the type of caliber of clients that we typically used to working with. If we just take a look at another random day, the day after, around $40,000. Same type of scale. Now that we got the proof out of the way, let's just jump right into the video. Great, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start listing some of the most common traits that I've seen once again in the last 7 years after working with so many brands and consulting them, of just similar traits of brands that are doing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a day and they just can't scale. So hopefully you resonate. I'm sure actually that you resonate with some of these things. Maybe it's one of the things that you're doing. I'm going to go over one by one in the list, and then I'm going to break and compare what the 40K per day business is actually doing. And in many cases, as I said before, they're selling the same exact offering or product, right? It's just the way that they're positioning their marketing and what they're doing on the back end to get those results. So first of all, 3 to 10K per day brands, they typically just copy and paste winning ads or steal them from direct competitors. So whenever they find something that works, they find what works late. Next thing is minimal research on their customers. I just tend to see that brands that just cannot scale just do very the bare minimum research, and they don't really understand and reverse engineer their offering by understanding the customer. They don't really do that. They don't really focus on understanding the average customer. Next thing that is very common is that the sales process is kind of all over the place. It's not really congruent. When I mean sales process congruency, which I'm going to talk about it in just a second, is that the ad doesn't really resonate with like the landing page or the offer or the way that you name the product, right? Or the listicle. Like everything is kind of like touching based on like maybe multiple avatar customers and not really specifying on one congruent problem, right? Or pain point. I see that very often. I am going to show you some exact, not results, but examples so that you can see it with your own eyes and what I mean. Next thing is there's no clear system to track creative tests. Every single time I see businesses that just complain about, hey, this doesn't work, I've tested so many other things, and I ask them, what have you tested and what are the numbers? They're not able to answer me because they're not tracking all the data. So this is very an important one. Next thing is creative tests are random based on a gut feeling. Because they're not able to track creative tests, they basically hope that something sticks on the wall and they just focus on doing volume and they never end up finding something that works. When they do find something that works, they don't really understand why it worked and they don't really have the data to back it up so that they can recreate other winning concepts that work. So there's no data being tracked, and so it's hard to scale. As I say over here, this process can get some results, don't get me wrong, but there's no innovation and understanding of what makes the customer buy, and there's no feedback loops. Everything is just centered, as I say here, towards copying and pasting, right? Now let's talk about the $40,000 brand. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to do like a list like I went through so far, because then I'm just going to stop on each one and just rant for like 20 minutes without showing you anything. So I divided this presentation into like multiple sectors. So we're going to go over exactly how multi 8-figure brands run their operations pretty much and what they really focus on. The first thing that I want to talk about is sales process congruency, which I touched based in the 3K to 10K per day brand, which is not really, they don't really do that and very often or very well. And so what I mean by this, and I also have a direct example, is that there needs to be a congruency between what people see on the ad, right? What people see on the advertorial and what people see on the product page and sales page for every angle typically that you promote. So if the angle is knee pain, I don't want to see an ad technically that talks about knee pain and then the advertorial talks about something else. Maybe it also talks about knee pain, but it also talks about stress relief. So essentially the customer sees that the advertorial, for example, is about knee pain, but they also read about stress and they're like, I'm not stressed. I don't really care about stress. I'm just here for the knee pain. And so it's like there's not much congruency into the sales process. And then also what they do, these 8-figure brands do, is sometimes they place name conventions for the product, calling it a knee pain solution. not just like they're going after specific pain points, and they're going to do the same exact thing for sleep, right? If the product also solves a sleeping problem, not just a knee pain problem, they're going to basically change the name convention of the product. Not every brand does this, but I'm seeing this as a pattern, including some of my own clients, where it just works very well and the conversion rates just go up because there's a lot more congruency in the sales process. What I'm going to do now is actually bring you through a perfect example of a perfectly congruent sales process, okay, so that you understand what I mean. Let's go over this example. The persona, let's just invent a brand. A persona is that we're targeting. The avatar customer is a 48-year-old Sally that cannot get rid of her flappy arms. Flappy arms are like bat wings. You know, when 48, 50-year-old women get a bit old, they start getting like flappy arms. You get the point. And so, cannot get rid of flappy arms despite her working out every single day, right? So she's working out all day long, but she can't get rid of her bat wings. The marketing angle that we're approaching for this specific example is that you don't need to lose weight, Mrs. Sally, right? You don't need to lose weight or tone your muscles to get rid of flappy arms. There's another solution that you can use. And so the product solution that we're introducing to the market and showing to Sally here is a natural vibrating red light beauty device that tones underarm fat. Okay, so because of this and because we did research, we know we can basically come up with a very congruent sales process that looks something like this. This is basically the ad. This is like a listicle that I came up with, and this is the product page. Let's just start over here so that we can go one by one. A perfect example of a congruent sales process is a hook of an ad, right, with a trainer telling people like Sally, she's trained women for 20 years, and that there's no workout to fix flappy arms. So she reaches out to a specialist dermatologist that presents a 5-minute per day home solution. So why this is working, basically, as I explained here, is that, note, this approach could work well as it comes from a trainer that would normally sell a training program. In this case, the trainer, as I say, is being honest and recommending a dermatologist-approved product because it's saying, hey, I tried everything there is with workouts, right? And this is why it works, because Sally, all she does is work out every day, and it doesn't work. And so how do I come up with this idea? Yes, I just did the research. So I'm going to also tell you, if you stick around until the end, how we actually break down research documents and frameworks and show you where I find this information, which is very, very interesting. Either way, let me just move on. This is a long-form VSL ad from with this framework. The personal trainer is the hook. Then because it takes away a sales tension, because the trainer is not selling them a sales program, but it's presenting another solution. And then the mic goes to a dermatologist that essentially starts selling the product. Now, what is a perfect congruent sales process knowing this ad? It's redirecting people to an advertorial that says something like this from a personal trainer standpoint. I've trained 1,000 plus women in 20 years, and I could never fix their flappy arms until one of my clients tried this device, XYZ, this beauty tension device with red light therapy, whatever, you get the point. And so this is basically the framework of the advertorial. There's congruency. Ensure credibility, right? I've trained 500, 1,000 plus women over 10 years, most over 40. Introducing the problem, no matter how consistent they were with their workouts, flappy arms just didn't go away. The frustration, then being honest, whatever, the discovery, the social proof, and then the genuine recommendation. So it's basically very congruent with what they saw over here. It's just purely an expansion of what they just saw in the VSL. And then the product, as you can see, is a solution that is specifically for an arm lifting device, which is what this company is selling. This is where I got, this is a company called Dermadream. They're doing quite well. And so I got inspiration from them. This angle, I don't think they're testing. This is just something that I came up with, okay? So this is just to show you an example. Hopefully you got the point of sales process congruency. Let's talk about scientific creative testing. And I'm gonna also show you some other things, but this is really, really important. The 3K to 10K per day brand that just doesn't have a scientific way of testing, okay? How we do it with our 8-figure clients, and also, of course, growing 7-figure brands that we work with, and how most other brands do it. And I've also spoken to 9-figure and consulted 9-figure brands within my portfolio, and they do this very, very methodically. Excuse me. And so what they do is that they basically compare all of their failed ads, and it's going to be the majority. Whether you like it or not, majority of your ads that you're going to test on the ad account are just going to be failed ads, because or else everybody would be millionaires, right, or trillionaires. Every ad that you put into the ad account works, doesn't work that way. So every time they basically instead of just going after moving forward to the next ad, they basically take a step back and compare the failed ads with their best winning ads. And what we do to understand why winning ads work and their framework, which is essential to make all of this happen, is that we create documents like this, where we break down winning ads that looks something like this, where let's just say the winning ad is an ad of a podcast style. We break down the framework of the ad, what happened when the hook happened in the first section, then credibility was shown, relatable testimonial, failed attempts, failed solution, curiosity trigger. We also, you get the point, the ad segment essentially. We also study bind triggers, and then we also divide, and I talked about this many times in all my other videos, we divide the entire video into segments. So this, between second 3 and 5, this happened with this B-roll. So we know exactly what's happening, so we can compare failed ads with winning ads methodically to the T, very scientifically. So this is like a 40-page document. We do this for like all of our clients, and it's very, very helpful because once again, it gives us that extra piece of context. So once we have this information of what makes, this is basically what I just showed you, but just in graphical representation, like put horizontally. So you have the ad segment, the frames by the second. So in this second, this frame is shown with this explanation. You get the point, right? And so what ends up happening is that once we know what works and once we know what doesn't work, we can compare the two to come up with strategic A/B tests, not random like the 7-figure brands do, but strategically placed A/B test, right? So I'll just give you a perfect example. Let's just say these are just examples to show you of what we like, how we at least do it that works well for us. So once we understand and study the winning ad, let's just call it this first one over here. We study it, we understand it. A first potential ad, like an A/B test, right, could be, since that we noticed that the winning ad had a hook rate, right, above 50%, which is really good. The hook was with the doctor showing up. This is just a random example. Let's try to emulate the same exact concept in a different way. So what we do is that we basically test one component of the video and test that specific placeholder, whether it's the hook, whether it's another section of the video, because it's backed by data. Because of this hook, right, worked well and it had a 50% hook ratio, and the doctor was talking about this specific thing. Let's maybe try to emulate that, or at least use that same framework to do an A/B test on another ad that I'm testing. Same thing, A/B test number 2. We noticed in the previous failed ads that the hold rate of the ad is not great, below 20%, not very good hold rate. The winning ad had a hold rate of 40%, and they introduced the product with a customer story, right? Let's try to recreate that concept, but with a different creator, right? So instead of just changing everything, right, keep maybe the same structure, but just start focusing on specific, reading the data, right? Because if the hook rate was 50% or 70%, then maybe don't change it, right? But if the engagement of the ad is low, or if the CTR is low, or you can basically take a look at all these data points into the ad account. If the hold rate is low, meaning that people just don't retain, then you probably have to fix a couple things within the middle or after the first 15-20 seconds of the ad, because then if, once again, not to be repetitive here, but if the hold rate of the ad is below 20%, it means that people, after they see the hook, they're not engaged, and they're not interested to see the entire ad. So you get the point. These are just some examples. Okay, so as you can tell, as I say here, all these A/B creative tests are backed by data, not randomized things, hoping something magically starts working. So what ends up happening when you do not do random tests, and I've shown this diagram before many times, is that every single batch of creative that you do, this is like 1 week of creatives, second week of creatives, third weeks of creatives, you're going to start seeing check marks, and the check marks are the winning ads. The X's, of course, are failed ads, and you're going to start seeing your hit rate go from like 1, 2, 3% to hopefully 10, 12, 15, some clients even 18, 20% hit rate. Not very common, but still very possible if you really focus on understanding A/B tests and being strategic in tracking that. Okay, let me know if you have questions about this. But to move forward, let's talk about creative testing tracker, because this is one of the most important things that we do. So whenever we go into actually analyzing creatives, we test every single we track every single test that we put into the ad account into this kind of universal sheet. So this is basically one test. Test number 3 is another test. Test number 5 is another test, and basically we track what the avatar is in that test, the hook that we use, the messaging, the copy, the creatives, and so many other metrics. And so what ends up happening is that we basically then can also create graphical representations and like a creative concept that we use in percentage, how many angles we tested, what is the format that is working the best, what is our win rate. This is actually a table from an existing client. We're getting a 12% win rate. So 1 every 6-7 ads, whatever that is, we get a scalable ad that can actually work, scale, and be profitable, right? And so just to show you visually how that looks like over here, just to show you, this is basically what I'm talking about, right? So you go over here, we have a sheet called Creative Testing Tracker, and then basically we plug and play everything. We also track like their status, the results, break even to be determined, losers, winners, right? That's how we're able to come up with this, the win rate kind of graph. And then we also track other metrics that we have a VA just plug them and play them from the ad account, including hook rate, hold rate. These are blank because it's just a demo. By the way, if you want this sheet, go get it. There's a link down below. It's completely free. There's a link. Give us your email and it's going to be in your inbox within like 3 minutes. Then the important thing here is why do we do this? We do this because we want to track learnings, right? So that we can come up with future tests, but they're never randomized. They're based on specific elements and based on data that we're tracking, right? So just to go back to the diagram over here, one other thing that we do, and I can show you also the way that we do it with a tool called Atria, is that once we have all this data, we can basically use a tool like Atria, and also we have our own systems and processes where we can basically track ad copies and filter them by ROAS because we're tracking all this information, right? Ad copies, for example, we can filter them by ROAS. And so we can do the same thing with hooks, right? ROAS, this hook number 2 worked well. Same thing with scripts until we can essentially come up with concrete A/B testing frameworks to test to new concept in a new ad. And so let me just show you how we do it with Atria. This is just a tool that we like to use. I'm just going to put myself over here because I need to cover my client's data. Just bear with me for just 1 second. So this is the tool that we use, right? And we track, as you can see, ad spend, ROAS, all these things, whatever, just like any ad account. This is the tool called Atria. You just have to sign up. And then the tool also gives us age, gender, platform, where it's working the best, ad angles, right? Personalize this, the angle with personalization, family angle, the announcements, right? The themes, the emotions that worked. And then of course, top spenders, filter by spend and ROAS, right? And same thing with over here. You can filter by spend and filter by ROAS. And you can do that with hooks, you can do it with copies, you can do it with headlines, landing pages, and filter by ROAS based on copies. It's like genius. And so we also do this with, as I said before, internally, but we also use a tool called Atria, which is very, very helpful. Now, moving forward, and this is the last thing that I'm going to talk about in this video, is consistent, deep avatar customer research. Okay, this is such a detrimental and important component of this entire equation. If you don't do your research, you're not going to be able to get to the next level, because the people that do research, and I've come this to learn after several years, it took me some time to learn as well, is that the people that just come up with the best angles are the people that know everything there is to know about their customer. So let's just take an example. Let's just say our customer is Elisa, that is 52, thin build, concerned with flappy arms, the same person as before. I called her Sally, now she's called Lisa, whatever. She has 2 kids, married. She does like an admin assistant work at a dental clinic, and she's trying to lose weight. She's skinny, but she has the flappy arms. What we need to do is understand what her pain points, desires, aspirations, motivations, language that she uses, and insecurities are. This is what you need to know about the customer. If you know this, you can come up with better angles, and I'll show you some direct examples, right? Let me just show you directly. So I did some research, and I'm going to show you how we did some research. We used several different strategies. Just stick until the next couple of minutes, and I'll show you what we do. But this is what we've came to analyze after we did the research. This is the core pain point of Sally, or whatever her name is. I'm already skinny. I can't lose weight to fix this, and no matter what I try, these arms just are not, stay soft and saggy. Her thoughts are, everyone tells me I'm lucky to be thin, but I hate my arms. It's not fat, it's skin, it's age, and nothing I do is working. I feel like I've run out of options. Should I do surgery? I hope not. So these are all hooks, perhaps, that you can kind of frame at the beginning of your video ads, right? Everything that is basically in her mind and her thoughts. Next thing is here, like her emotional world. She feels ignored by most fitness and diet ads because they're all about fat loss. And yeah, you guessed it, this is how I got and came up with the advertorial angle from the fitness coach. The one that I went over here, if you remember, right? Not to go back too much over here, but this angle, it came from that basically analysis that I did that I just showed you over here on the bottom. And so nothing is randomized, right? Next thing is what she wants, okay? A targeted solution that made for women just like her, slim but aging. Something that tightens tones and helps restore fit. You get the point. We understand everything there is to know. These are just some examples of ways that we do this research. We go on Reddit. This is a perfect example of a persona that you can find and create and her pain points. This is basically a Sally that is maybe a bit younger, like 40 or 38, right? And this is what it says, right? I've always had flappy arms, and no matter how much weight I lose, my arms stay big. I also have broad shoulders, so naturally I look bulky. My physique goal is to have the sexy Dora peanut arms. Okay, what we also can learn from these kind of Reddit posts, because they're anonymous, people just say everything about what they like actually want, and including aspirations. Who do they aspire to be? And so this could be a perfect hook. Do you want to look like the sexy Dora and have peanut arms? Whatever. You get the point. You can use it as a hook, as a selling proposition, as a promise, whatever. You get the point. But we're basically able with these posts to understand exactly what they're thinking and what they're saying. And we can do the same thing with like TikTok, reading Amazon reviews, and this gets really, really interesting. One other thing that a lot of people just don't do is just read research that are based on like, the Denver Post, like high authority networks or articles or research centers about health, about women, right? In many cases, we also, to come up with an avatar customer, to make sure that there's enough market for it, we want to do research on that specific avatar customer. So this is just an example of an article that we would read about bat wings, sagging underarm skin has women getting more surgery. And so we want to basically understand more about why they're thinking about surgery and how it's making them feel, and how we can use these hooks and selling propositions or pain points within our ads. Okay, that is it for this video. The other thing that I want to show you is that we also have like customer review mining. We basically scrape all the reviews and put it and feed it into ChatGPT, and then we have ChatGPT tell us what are the areas of improvement that the customers talk about in the reviews. What are their buying motivations based on the reviews and expectations? What are the use cases based on the reviews? And also like customer sentiment, like what's good, what's bad, what needs to be improved. And so there's just a lot of data. That is it for this video. I hope this video was valuable. If you want our sheet for our creative testing tracker, there's a click down below. And last but not least, if you are a brand doing around $100,000 a month, plus or minus, and you want to explore the opportunity of working with a growth partner just like us, click the link below. There's a link to book in a call. It's going to be an audit call. We can, see if there's at least an opportunity for us to do business together. And of course, if we still have capacity and we're not, a full stack. That is it. Book in a call. I'll see you on the call, and definitely see you in the next video. Bye.